Dan untuk itu kerajaan memutuskan untuk melaksanakan perintah kawalan pergerakan.
Aku dah tak ada keluarga, aku nak mati.
A very good day to Madam Akmal. My name is Martin Luke, anak lelaki Micheal Benedict, matrix number 065808. In this presentation, I'm going to talk briefly on the introduction. In the early months of 2020, the coronavirus pandemic was one of the most catastrophic tragedies in modern history. Due to the global spread of COVID-19 and the increase in the number of deaths, the mental health of the entire world has been gravely affected. As a result of this pandemic, social meetings have been restricted over the world, resulting in despair, low mood, loneliness, concern, and anxiety. Regardless, it is undeniable that Malaysia has endured hardships and obstacles throughout this difficult time. In order to cut costs, some businesses were forced to lay off employees. Fear, worry, and anxiety contributed to stress and depression in those who are subjected to these situations. Rates of suicide and suicidal behavior have increased as a result of this epidemic. Muslims believe that only Allah has the ultimate will and power over life and death. Life is merely a gift and alone entrusted to mankind until death takes place. It is therefore forbidden for any person to intentionally end a life. Suicide is viewed by Muslims as a denial of God's gift of life in general. The Quran teaches us to trust God, have confidence in God's kindness, and be patient and not to injure others. Killing a life, whether your own or someone else, is equivalent to killing all of mankind. Saving a life is the same as saving the entire human race.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Afieq and I will be briefly talk on the protection of life. First thing is, the protection of life prevents people from hurting themselves, one another, and from doing bad deeds. Marriage, eating, drinking, clothing, and housing are all related and mentioned in the protection of life in Islam, as is forbidden fighting, exceeding boundaries, extravagance, for violation, maintaining public health, forbidden suicide, breaking the fast, giving up fasting, forbidden abortion, retaliation, and diya, which is blood money. Second, life is sacred and one of the greatest gifts and blessing of God. In Islam, life is priceless and valuable at every moment. As a result, it must be appreciated and preserved, even if it is of poor quality. Saving life is a duty, and taking life without reasons is a serious crime. In Islam, human life is respected and protected, and suicide is prohibited. Third, one of the methods to maintain life is the prohibition of damage, which includes suicide. Harm can be defined in a variety of ways, including harming others or harming oneself. These things are forbidden in Islam because the idea of harm or the idea of no harm is at the heart of the religion. Fourth, or the final point, is obligation given by us to maintain and defend our soul, because the soul is one of the advantage given upon human being, and they have been obligated by the Almighty to maintain and defend it. Islam has put a significant emphasis on honoring and valuing it. Meanwhile, they were forbidden from violating the soul by keeping it alive and avoiding murder oneself or others, because God had given the soul to them as amanah or trust, and individuals should be trustworthy in sustaining that trust. As a result, protecting life is a responsibility in Islam. That is all from me. Thank you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurbalqis Najwa binti Hanizar and my metric number is 067775. Now I will be talking about how Islam views suicide. Suicide death occurs when a person intentionally ends their own life. Suicide is often regarded as robbing God of his gift of life in Islam. Life, according to Islam, is not a property, but rather a trust bestowed onto each human being. In Islam, it is neither permissible to take another human's life without reason, nor is it permissible to destroy one's own existence, as these are severe sins, according to God. God determines every person's place and time of death, yet when an individual commits suicide, he will undoubtedly be held accountable for choosing to end his own life and executing his purpose. God has given us the right to self-determination, and if we use it to take our own lives, that is precisely what we shall be punished for in the hereafter. Suicide is unlawful in Islam and is one of the major sins which will result in the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Suicide is mentioned in the Quran in Surah An-Nisa verse 29, Surah Al-Isra verse 33, and Surah Al-Baqarah verse 195. The topic is also mentioned in the Hadith, Al-Bukhari 5442 and Muslim 109, and also Al-Bukhari 5700 and Muslim 110. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran has said, "And do not kill yourselves. Surely Allah is most merciful to you." Surah An-Nisa verse 29. "And do not throw yourselves into destruction." Surah Al-Baqarah verse 195. "And do not kill the soul which Allah has forbidden, except by right." Surah Al-Isra verse 33. Whereas the Prophet of Allah has said, "Whoever throws himself down from a mountain and kills himself will be throwing himself down in the fire of hell forever and ever. Whoever drinks poison and kills himself will be sipping it in the fire of hell forever and ever. Whoever kills himself with a piece of iron will have that iron in his hand, thrusting it into his belly in the fire of hell forever and ever." Narrated by Al-Bukhari 5442 and Muslim 109. Whoever kills himself with something will be punished with it on the day of resurrection. Narrated by Al-Bukhari 5700 and Muslim 110.
Hi, my name is Kishankumar, Anuar Layani Elangovan with matrix number 066759. I will be presenting about the statistics of suicide across South Asia. After COVID-19 was declared a public health crisis, the incidence of suicide in South Asia increased dramatically. Following the advent of COVID-19, the number of suicides in Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore and Nepal has risen considerably. Thailand's health officials reported a 22% rise in suicide incidents in the first of 2020 compared to the same time in 2019. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic's isolation and physical agony, Singapore had 452 suicides in 2020, the highest number since 2012. Furthermore, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of suicides in Nepal increased by more than a quarter, with 559 suicides each month. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, the frequency of suicides in Malaysia has risen dramatically, where there is a 143% of increase from first half of 2020 to first half of 2021. Suicide rates are on the rise, thus it's reasonable to assume that COVID-19 will trigger a catastrophic mental health crisis in the general population, especially among the most vulnerable and at-risk demographics. It has been established that the vulnerable populations include children, adolescents and youths, as well as people with mental health concerns and migrant workers. According to World Health Organization (WHO), death on suicide and suicide attempts is scarce and of poor quality around the world. Only about 80 member states have reliable vital registry data that may be utilized to estimate suicide rates directly. Although poor quality mortality data is not unique to suicide, given its sensitivity and the legality of suicidal behavior in some countries, underreporting and misclassification are likely to be more of an issue for suicide than for most other causes of death. Effective suicide prevention measures involve improved surveillance and tracking of suicide and suicide attempts. The need for each country to enhance the comprehensiveness, accuracy and timeliness of its suicide-related statistics is highlighted by cross-national disparities in suicide patterns as well as changes in suicide rates, features and methods. This comprises critical suicide registration, hospital-based suicide attempt registers and national representative surveys collecting data on self-reported suicide attempts. Thank you.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Nadiatulhusna binti Anuar Layani and my matrix number is 065530. I will continue this presentation with the causes of suicide case. The COVID-19 pandemic is a global threat that not only causes physical effects but also has a strong mental health component. The most extreme consequences include self-harm and suicide. It has been discovered that the most common reason for person committing suicides during the pandemic is economic uncertainty. Many stores and factories are closed as a result of the movement control order, and any outside activities such as sport and entertainment is outlawed. This leads to the increases in unemployment rate, which affects the citizen, particularly the young generation and those with large families. The pandemic has impacted their livelihood since they lost their jobs and were forced to stay at home. Even in this tough situation, they still had to pay family costs as well as loan arrears. This scenario has a significant impact on individuals, leading to depression and a desire to end their life in order to escape reality. Apart from that, the rise in domestic abuse cases due to the pandemic has become one of the reasons why individuals attempt suicide. Throughout the lockdown, domestic abuse cases were one of the hot topics that were served to us on social media. The victims in these incidents are mainly the wives. The stressful situation faced by the husband is vented to their wives and sometimes the child. These incidents frequently occur when the husband is under the influence of alcohol or drugs. In some situations, the wife takes the brazen action of taking their own life. Last but not least, due to the movement control order, online classes conducted has resulted in suicide attempts among students. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on the mental health of students all around the world. According to studies, almost 90% of suicide victims had at least one mental condition. The leading causes of the increasing suicide tendencies among students are discontent with mental health issues due to the pandemic response, academic careers and job-related concerns.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Alif Nasrullah bin Samsul. My matric number is 065464. Today I want to share about how to prevent suicide. Suicide can be prevented through early detection of risk factors and treatment with evidence-based method. The researchers have been looked into creative ways to deal with the effects of isolation, which may be able to continue and grow after COVID. For example, a phone call program that focused on empathy and was run by non-professionals was able to show that participants were less lonely, depressed and anxious than the control group, and that their overall mental health was better after 4 weeks. Next, online suicidal risk management skills also can help prevent the suicidal tragedy. There is also a significant need for global suicide prevention initiatives and mental health campaigns that emphasize the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on one's mental health and quality of life. Thus, it is necessary that mental health program is developing nations incorporate active suicide prevention and psychoeducation strategies that include both the general public and healthcare providers. Lastly, it is important for Muslims to hold firmly to the Islam lesson that have been taught. A Muslim should always upgrading their iman through the Al-Quran and Hadith in order to stay in the right path. Quran and Hadith underline the sacredness Allah SWT has given on each human life and the imperative to prevent its destruction.
Life is necessary and valuable for all individuals. In this regard, there is no distinction between the lives of the rich and the poor, the leader and the subordinate, Muslims and non-Muslims. Safeguarding everyone's life is essential and mandatory for each and every person and community. Suicide is strictly forbidden in Islam, regardless of how bad life grows, and it has grave effects. God's tests take many forms of different people. Numerous individuals encounter severe depression at some point in their life. Islam also stresses that Allah does not burden any soul except what it can bear. Al-Baqarah verse 286. Thus, the Quranic verse indicates that one should be able to face the difficulties and hardships to the extent of one's capability. Islam's principle and practical remedies safeguard the sanctity of human life. Indeed, Allah promises that there is ease with every difficulty. This is stated in Al-Inshirah verse 5. May Allah ease the suffering of the Ummah. That's all from us. Thank you for watching.